One. And we are back for episode number 72 of Raise Banner Podcast. This episode, Fenway sweep, and that's what I do want to start us off with. But as usual, McAtoor here, Benny Ballgame Dearth, Zach Brewitt, and today, special guest, Cerrone Battle. Cerrone, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, guys. Thanks for having me on here. How you guys doing?
Great. Appreciate you being here.
Play a little, Ben, you're not doing too good. What do you mean? You just said you just had to take a nap because of your day.
Oh, well, that's why I'm feeling great. I feel refreshed.
I guess I'll take it. It's a glass half full mentality for you to say great right now. So
it is. I have my my caffeine, my Coke Zero Orange Cream. No.
I just tried those.
No sponsors. No, I've been drinking these for like 6 months. You got to catch up, buddy.
I'm a cream soda zero sugar and root beer zero sugar for A&W.
Ooh, solid. That's A&W.
Yeah, but I tried
cream sodas like the OG.
I was told to try Bark zero sugar, and I like it, but I think I still like A&W's better. But I like Bark's regular root beer better than A&W root beer.
Yeah.
But I just tried the orange cream the other day, and I don't know. I feel like you got to get used to it. It's a little bit of a funky taste with it that I'm not used to, but all right, let's just jump in. Enough with the Coke talk. The Boston Red Sox, they got a nice sweep of the St. Louis Cardinals after what it was a 4-1 start. 1-4 start.
Yep.
Now back up to
1-4, 1-4. Yep.
Yeah, and they're on a 5-game win streak. They took the last two against Baltimore. And then they now swept St. Louis. I'll start with you, Cerrone. How are you feeling 10 games into the season? You happy with how things have played out so far?
Look, man, I'm relieved for them. They had to do something to, get everybody back in the good graces of this team. I mean, I think they had to figure out a way to, I wouldn't say steal the spotlight from everybody else, but I think they've done it. I mean, think about it. Last few days, no one's really talking about the Celtics, even though they're heading into the playoffs. Basically, the Red Sox now they've made it to front page news until the draft, of course. But I think it's good for them. I seen today somebody said they stole Fenway back. It's back to being their building again. And I think it was not just winning. I think the way they've been winning these games and the way they've been kind of, I wouldn't say dominating, but the way they've looked improved across the board, I think is the most encouraging thing about this team.
Absolutely. For me, this is the first time in, I would say, since maybe the start of the 2019 season after the championship that I think there's a sense of life into the team in April. Every year since then, between that time, it's kind of been dull. It's like, all right, like we don't have high expectations, so no one's going in and overly excited. Obviously, we saw the St. Louis series. We had the walk-off by Abreu in a game that they probably shouldn't have won. But they kind of gave it to Boston. But Abreu's walk-off, and then last night they kind of blew the doors off them. So, I mean, I think it's hard to not be excited with things. I'm still a little hesitant. Maybe it's PTSD from the last few years, but as a whole, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. Ben, how about you?
I'm feeling great. Just to reiterate your point, there was certainly some buzz around this team. Kind of got kicked into overdrive towards the end of the offseason when they finally nailed down the Bregman deal. And I know, Matt, we've touched on this ad nauseum at this point, but they were hurting for some news, for some action for the last handful of years. Between not spending, trying to piecemeal teams together with a limited budget by choice. I mean, certainly, they have more than enough revenue. I think the numbers came out from, the revenues generated in 2024 relative to 2025 payrolls. And I want to say the Red Sox generated like the 4th highest revenue in 2024. And they spent like the 20th most amount of money on payroll. Some crazy, whatever, not 20th, it was like 10th. They were still good for spending. But they went out and they got actual talent. They didn't just spend to fill holes. you can go to the ballpark and be like, yeah, I know half of the names in this roster because they're actual notable MLB talented players, not just guys that, the diehard Red Sox fan would know. I mean, if you asked somebody, in middle America who Willie or Abreu is, they would have no clue, right? But you ask somebody out there who, who's Alex Bregman, they're going to know the answer to that question. They're going to know who Garrett Crochet is. They know who Aroldis Chapman is. So it's nice that they went out and they got talent. They spent money. They still didn't spend a ton of money relative to, I know I'm older than you guys. I remember when they were top of the payroll team 20 years ago when they were winning in 04 and 07 and they were pushing, for pennants in the mid 2000s decade. So it's really nice to see that they're doing it again. They sold out opening day. I mean, when was the last time the Red Sox sold out opening day? Like I feel like it's been like, I don't think they've done it since COVID. COVID notwithstanding, obviously people were trying to stay away from the ballpark, but like they sold out opening day for the first time in like legitimately in 4 years. It's nice that it's also resulting in wins. I think it's been proven that if you spend on really good talent, typically the wins tend to follow. They got off to a tough start. I mean, Devers was arguably the worst baseball player of all time the first 6 games of the season. And it was just weird. It was like they were losing games in weird ways. Like the bullpen gave up 0 runs and 2 hits in the 4 games in Texas, and they lost 3 out of 4. Like that, you don't normally hear losing a series 3 out of 4 and they go, oh yeah, our bullpen literally dominated. They didn't they gave up 2 base runners. You'd be shocked to hear that and see that they lost 3 out of 4. They're turning it around. I don't think you could pour water on this team and get them to cool off at this point, which is nice. Excited to see. I don't know if they're going to play tonight. Weather's not that great, but hopefully they can keep it rolling. And they're sitting atop the American League East by virtue of the fact that the Yankees have lost 2 in a row. So be nice to see more of that. And excited to see what this team's going to do this year.
Absolutely, Zach. I know we kind of touched on it a lot, but who are you?
I was going to say, you got all of them, all the points you guys made are what I was going to say. There's really in the past 5 games, it's hard to find a negative to say. Maybe Cooper Criswell. Honestly, I didn't watch when he came in last night. I was watching White Lotus. Wife wanted to turn that on, so I got sucked into that. But outside of him,
I was like, screw this. I'm going to bed. We were up
it was
12.
18-3. It's pretty obvious. Yeah, exactly. I was watching my phone while playing PS5. But I think he's the only negative you can really say. I mean, they probably should have lost the day game doubleheader. But yeah, they've definitely turned it around. Whatever issues Devers was having at the beginning of the season, he's certainly gone the complete opposite way. As bad as he was, he's been that good since Baltimore, and definitely since the St. Louis game. The pitching's been good. I know, Ben, you said the same thing, that the bullpen was really dominant, as weird as that is to say, in Texas, and they've kind of kept it all the way through. Not really many things negative to say about the team as a whole, especially since Texas and now that we're home, hope to keep it going.
To Ben's point, when he was naming the players they spent money on and just going through the roster, you can kind of tell early on for the first time in years, there's kind of I wouldn't say a love fest with the team, but fans are kind of picking their favorite players already.
Well, Buster Olney was saying that last night on the broadcast. I think it was Buster Olney. He said that, within his peers, John Henry feels like he's woken up and has found his love for baseball again, as kind of what he was saying. And you can see it. I don't know if
that pisses me off more than anything else, to be honest with you.
I hated hearing it, and I hated even watching it again on
great, but what does that mean for the last 4 or 5 years?
It's a good.
I hate
lip service for sure, but
I hate watching this team, but I definitely didn't spend on it, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, you've lost me enough money over the past 5 years because of me that maybe now I'll go the opposite way. But.
Speaking of spending, Vladdy signed his extension today, and Ben and I were talking about this morning. Cerrone, how does this Vladdy contract make you look at the Devers deal Does it make it look like a better deal in your mind, or is it still kind of a deal that? How do you feel about the deal altogether now? Seemingly that he's going to be a DH for, I guess, the foreseeable future at least.
Well, it depends. It's like if he plays the way he did the first few games of the season, we're all looking at this like you got to get out of that. But if he's not going to stay as hot as he's been the last couple games. But if he put it like this, we talk across sports here, but the Travis Hunter play two sides thing, can he focus on one thing? Okay, if you're just going to DH, you're not out there playing the field, you're not adding any wear and tear on your body. If you're out there performing and looking like an all-star player, I don't think anyone's going to have an issue with his deal. But if he goes into these deep slumps like he was in to start the season, like you say, he was looking like the worst player ever. If he has a lot of these roller coaster rides during the season, we're going to be looking at that. I mean, it's Boston, man. We're going to be looking at that contract like crazy. But if he's out there performing and he looks like he's even an even better player as a DH or a better hitter, we're going to look at that deal like it's a steal.
Yeah, no question. So I didn't hear this during the offseason. I guess Devers tinkered with his mechanics. I haven't seen any or heard anything since he really turned things around. And this kind of goes for everybody. Has there been anything out there that he went back to his old swing mechanics, or is he just finally, because he only played in 5 spring training games, like is he finally caught up, quote unquote, to live baseball to where his new swing is actually paying off, or did he go back to what I haven't seen anything on that. My initial thought was, you hit 30 bombs a season, 35 bombs a season on a healthy year. Why on earth are you tinkering with your swing?
Yeah.
I mean, no one's complaining now. But I haven't heard anything about, if the adjustments are just paying off, or if he ended up going back to the original swing.
So the one thing I saw was he lowered his original hands when at the start of his stance. So he used to be up here, and then he was then starting more down here. I think the idea was to get that quicker bat speed, and it's less motion back and more fluid motion back. I haven't noticed if he went back to what he was doing. I haven't looked at it since then, but that was the noticeable change that I personally saw from him last year to this year. So I would guess it's probably him just. He didn't get many spring training at bats, and people talk about spring training and these are professional hitters, they should be able to come out here and hit and stuff like that. It's just really not how it works in baseball. Yeah. When you're off for 3, 4, 5 months and then you come back, you guys know, you got to see these things. You got to go up and have 30, 40, 50 at bats and get a comfort zone for what you're seeing again.
Yeah.
And he had, maybe a dozen at bats in spring training before
if
the season. Yeah, the season started. And so when you talk about the 0 for 22 that he started the season, he was that put him at 35, 40 at bats, which is what they generally see in spring training. Yeah. So that to me seems more what it is he's finally just getting his timing right, getting his swing back. The one thing I liked was he wasn't, even during that bad stretch, he had good discipline. He wasn't chasing a lot out of the zone, and it was just it seemed like every swing he was missing by a centimeter. You know what I mean? He was swinging through so many balls inside the zone that it was frustrating, but now it seems like he's got that together and his timing's right. So it's getting back on track for him. Yeah. I've never been worried too much about what to expect from him.
What I would say to him too about him, I'm glad he got it together coming home. Because could you imagine if he had to go 0 for 22 at home with the back and forth about playing third DH and all that other stuff? Could you imagine the pressure that would have piled up if he carried that slump through this home stretch and was starting to hear the noise now with Fenway? So I'm glad he got hot when he did at the right time, to where it's probably a pressure off his shoulders. All right, I'm good now. I get out there and play ball and not have to worry about it.
There was talk that there were rumors if he was going to get the Trey Turner Trey Turner treatment. If you remember, was it last year or the year before? Turner started out I think it was 2 for 40, like some ridiculous number in Philly, and he came to Philly and they booed the shit out of him one of the early homestands. And then he comes out and I think he broke through and he ended up having a really good year. But that was the talk I saw on X of like, hey, is he going to come to Boston and get his ass booed because he can't hit the ball? So like you said, him turning it around, I think it was it the last 2 Baltimore games he really started to find it and click. So obviously he is red hot right now, which is nice to see.
It's funny you mentioned the Trey Turner thing because I took that as I saw on Twitter too, like them saying, "Oh, like Rafi better get the Trey Turner treatment." And I thought it was when they gave him like a standing ovation after he had like come out with mental health issues, or if it was just because he was struggling or whatever it was. And then from that ovation on, he went like on a Rafi Devers-esque tear. But I forgot that they booed him first to start, and then that's
he dealt with like some extra issue that I remember that he did get an ovation, and I think it did help him a little bit. But no, like I said, I'm happy to see him kind of turn it around. It seems like this lineup, when healthy, has a chance to be very, very, very good.
Yeah.
Cerrone, what are your early thoughts on Abreu right now, and Duran as well in the outfield situation as a whole? We're seeing Campbell mix in there. And then obviously Anthony's waiting.
He's another guy you add into the list of fan favorites. I mean, you're going to start seeing people rocking his jersey if he keeps this up. And I think this team needed some kind, I wouldn't say it's an identity, but they needed an image, a culture, or a style. They needed something to get the fan base back into this team and watching every night. And I think they're doing that. And he's a huge part of it, starting from the first game of the season. So I think, I wouldn't say he's on his way to being a superstar or anything like that, but a local star. And I think that's all they need to be competitive. You need something to keep the fans coming. You need something in that lineup that's playing defense, hitting all-around players that keep you at the top of the standings. You just want a chance. And I think guys like Abreu are giving them a fighter's chance, something that we haven't said about this team in a long time.
Yeah, the nice thing I like about Abreu, too, is I feel like the average fan is going to know that the Devers, the Bregmans, the stories to a degree, assuming he stays healthy, are always going to be there. I would say in terms of like the vibe of like who Abreu is, he was a mid-level prospect that came over in the Christian Vasquez trade. Just like how he plays, and he kind of reminds me of like early Dustin Pedroia, the guy that played with a chip on his shoulder because he was overlooked for whatever reason, right? Like Abreu was in trade talks about like, how does he fit on this team? We've got Roman Anthony knocking on the door, and he's probably a right fielder. He's not a center fielder. He'll play a corner somewhere. And it's like, who on this team, because in the offseason they had too many outfielders. They had to figure something out. I think they still have too many outfielders, but they can kind of kick that can down the road a little bit, I think. And so Abreu just happened to be a popular name of like, okay, well, who do we trade? Who brings us, a solid return to also then fill a hole? You can never have enough pitching, and they had too many outfielders. So, for him, I think it's good for him to come in and play really, really well. But I think he kind of gave the fans that early season spark, right? Like we know that Devers was going to hit. Took a while, but we know Devers is going to hit. And if they stay healthy, Casas and Story are going to hit. We know Bregman's going to hit. We know what Duran is. He had an electric year last year. So it's nice that he kind of throws his hat in the ring about, he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and he becomes that fan favorite because of how he plays. Just, he's not the superstar, but he played super well, and gave the fans, a reason to watch early because, took Devers a little bit, took some of those bigger name guys a couple of games to get going, and he was just ready to go right from the start. It was nice to see.
Yeah, he's the kind of player you look back 5-10 years from now and you're like, oh yeah, shit, the guy was actually really good. Look up his highlights on YouTube and it's like 15 minutes long because you always think of the Bregmans, the Devers, the big name guys, and you forget that he hit 5th, 6th, 7th, and beyond in the lineup. Always gets overlooked, but he's always someone who's there, comes up with the clutch hits. Obviously, another walk-off against St. Louis. couple walk-offs last year against the Yankees, like that. Obviously, that huge throw he had, Gold Glove winner. Like he's someone who just always shows up. Probably never going to get the recognition that he deserves, because again, he's on a team with actual superstars and household names. But he's a guy like Trot Nixon. You mentioned Dustin Pedroia, Ben, who again, you look back 15, 10 years from now, whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, the guy actually was really good. And again, like you just kind of forget about him, but he's always a guy who like every team needs and every team like can rely on when it comes, the postseason.
Yeah. This conversation made me go back and search in my post from before last season. One of my takes was that we're going to look back and say that the Abreu trade was the single best move that Chaim Bloom made. So I just quoted it with the emojis.
You should have put a little like trumpet, maybe like not to toot my own horn.
But speaking of moves, since we last came on and talked about the Sox, Garrett Crochet signed an extension, a big extension to stay here. Cerrone, what's your overall thoughts? Obviously, they gave up a haul to get him. There was a lot of talk of if they would get a deal done. Crochet said he didn't want to get talk into the season, and then we kind of all of a sudden breaking news: an extension is done. Are you a fan of the extension, and what's your overall thoughts there?
I guess my first initial thought was that was quick. I mean, I wonder what changed. What changed his mind to say, okay, I'll get this extension now. I mean, we hear a lot about. You don't really see it when the season starts, but in many sports, getting guys when you're trying to negotiate with somebody, get them in the building, you talk to them, you try and sell them on something, whatever it is. Maybe being around the Sox for as long as he did, so you know what, I'm cool here, I'm comfortable here, I'm gonna sign this extension here. But my biggest thing goes back to Henry. I mean, these guys paying people, you got to pay people in order to win, and I think at this point now. Fans aren't looking at the money. They're not looking at the years. They're looking at, okay, we got this guy. We got our guy. We got a guy. And I think they had to get back to spending money on these players in order to be competitive. And when you see breaking news and Red Sox on your phone pop up that early in the season, you're like, oh, snap, what happened? Thinking somebody got hurt or something. But when you're getting good news popping up about these players signing extensions with the Sox, that's very encouraging, not just for the fans or for the front office, but it's encouraging to the rest of the league. Sends a message to the rest of the league that we're open for business now. We mean business again. We're back to being the Red Sox. Come all. If you're looking for contracts and looking for positions, we're open for business again.
Yeah,
like owner's not a bitch anymore.
No, yeah. You talk about like the fans. The fans don't think about the financial impact. I mean, $170 million is a ton of money. Mm-hmm. But I looked at like recently the big deal that comes to mind is when they traded for Chris Sale in 2017, right? It was 2017 they acquired Chris Sale. And you look back at that trade and I can tell you they gave up 4 prospects and 2 of them were Yoan Moncada, who I believe at the time was the top 5 prospect in baseball. And you gave up Michael Kopech, who I believe was our top pitching prospect at the time. And I want to say he was like a top 50 guy. There was a little uncertainty. He was still kind of young. And you're like, all right, the Red Sox gave up a lot. Like Moncada's a top prospect in baseball. If somebody wants to look back and tell me who the other 2 guys were, I don't think it was anybody of substance at this point. It's been 8 years.
I want to say one guy was like the 12th ranked in the system, and the other guy was like in the 20s, something like that.
But you look back, and within 2 years of making that trade, you win a World Series. And then you sign Chris Sale to an extension. Now, granted, I wanted them to sign Chris Sale. I didn't think they would give him 5 years and $150 million. But, the extension obviously didn't really work out for them. But you look back and you go, yeah, we gave up Moncada and Kopech. Kopech is pretty solid relief pitcher. Moncada never became anything. And you look back and go, like, we won that deal. Like, you can look back and say, we absolutely beat the White Sox in that trade. And here you are 8 years later. And I know the 3 of us had talked in the offseason and go, okay, you gave up a lot. You gave up 2 top 5 prospects plus in order to go get Garrett Crochet. I was a big Braden Montgomery fan, loved him at Texas A&M. I know he's coming off an injury, but you gave up big names to get him. And the question was, okay, you're going to regret this trade. One, if you don't sign him to an extension and he's gone in 2 years. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to know that they gave him the money. We had speculated, what kind of deal it would take to get him. I don't think any of us three thought, it was going to be 6 and 170. Cerrone, I don't know if you postulated any deals. No. We kind of figured.
Honestly, I thought it was going to be either like 4 years or 8+. So the fact that they came in the middle was a little surprising to me. But obviously, he has an opt out too as well.
Yeah, he's got the opt out, which I thought we all kind of thought would happen. Where if he pitches really, really well, he can opt out. Is it prior to his age 31 season or age 30 season, whatever it is? So that gives him that probably his last shot at a big time deal. So we got the extension. If the Red Sox go on to be a legitimate World Series contender and win a World Series over the course of the next 5 years, no one's going to look back and go, yeah, we won a World Series, but man, I wish we had 170 million extra. Like, no one's going to care.
No one's going to care.
We're going to be like, you know what? Thank God that John Henry said pay him now, because if his second start, and no, his first start, right, opening day, he's never been an opening day starter in his life. He's in a big market now. I can understand having the jitters, but what you got from Garrett Crochet in Baltimore is like, that's the Garrett Crochet that we're looking for. First time he had ever gone 8 innings in a start in his young career. But like, say that you get, you're closer to that second start Garrett Crochet for the duration of 2025, and he's healthy and he's pushing 200 innings pitched and he's 250, 300 strikeouts. That extension a year from now starts with a 3 on it. And I don't think John Henry throws that kind of money at him. So I think that we're going to look back and go, we made the most intelligent decision possible to sign him in 2025, when a year later, he probably is worth twice what we're paying him already.
Yeah. Well, that's the issue. That was one of the conversations of, all right, whether to extend him now or not. And if I'm Breslow, and I imagine Breslow and Theo and whatever were going to Henry and saying, like, listen, if you don't fork it up now, there's a chance that, like, he gets injured and his value goes down, but there's a real chance that his value skyrockets and that 170 turns into something into the 2s, 250s, maybe even higher. But to go back to your point, Ben, the biggest thing for us when we discussed this trade was it really doesn't matter what Teal and Montgomery become.
Correct.
It really only matters what Crochet brings to the Red Sox. Like you said, if Crochet is an ace and he's leading in, we don't even have to say World Series. If he's just an ace here for the next 6 years, 7 years, or maybe more, like that, it's automatically a fine deal. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if Teal and Montgomery both become studs. Like, that's part of that's part of the deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're giving up 2 young guys, and they might become good, because that's the only reason the White Sox would do the deal, because they thought that these players would be good.
Right.
So
you can't get talent without giving up talent.
Yeah. So for me, like, this extension was unbelievably massive for that reason. And it's like I said, I don't give a shit what Teal or Montgomery becomes. It's the only thing that matters is what Crochet is here. And so now he's going to be here for bare minimum this year and another 5, right? Maybe 6, and then maybe even more beyond that. So I'm thrilled with it. I think it's a pretty reasonably valued deal as well. I don't think it's like it was anything crazy. And then the clause inside of it is beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
If he like tears his arm out, blows his arm out, I believe that player option disappears, and they get a $15 million team option and an additional year at it. So he blows his arm out next year. All of a sudden you tack a year on to that deal, and realistically $15 million when Crochet's 32 years old.
Right.
Like, I don't know if he's actually will play on that, but it could certainly be a steal. So I'm very happy about it, to say the least.
Yep.
Yeah. So same conversation. And before we transfer to the Patriots, Christian Campbell signed his extension. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we saw that. I felt like it was I was shocked when I saw the number. I thought it was going to be notably more. I looked at the I'm having a blank. The guy in Arizona, Corbin
Carroll.
Corbin Carroll.
Carroll. There you go. He signed his extension. I think it was like 8 years, 110 range or something like that. I saw Jackson Churio in Milwaukee signed 8 years, 88 million. So I'm like, all right, like, Campbell's going to come in around that marker, maybe somewhere in between. And the guy comes in and signs an 8-year, $60 million extension.
Steal.
Cerrone, what are your thoughts there? Obviously, with him being one of the first big three, are you on board with this, and how you see that playing out?
Man, I'm wondering, did they walk in this room in the middle of the night with a mask on? Dude, it's like he walked in like, hey, sign it. But
yeah, the mask was the Wally mask that they used for celebrations.
For real.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, and to his credit, he said, it changes his family. It was an honor for him, and it looks like the kid just wants to play baseball. I'm here with the Red Sox. I can live with this money. I'm good. And I know the minute he said that in the room, it was like, well, here, take the pen and sign it. They sent the DocuSign right over as soon as he was smiling. But I mean, look, I mean, if he turns into something, that's going to be one of the great, not turns into, that made something really, really big. That's going to be one of the great heists in modern baseball, to get an athlete in 2025 to agree to a deal that long, but that short money in that sport where they're paying guys $500 million.
Even the player options are very reasonable. Like it was just absolutely shocking to me. Even the player options are like 15 and 18 million. Like if this kid's a stud in his late 20s, like he's going to be playing for pennies on the dollar.
Oh, it's like the same thing that Ben said about Crochet. You sign him now because what if you don't and he goes out there and really lights it up? Now you're talking about another guy making $250 million. So it's like, let's get him now, get him in here, long-term him up, and he's our guy for the future. And we not say cornerstones, but we're building our pieces to let everybody know we're going to be around for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he's not to the level of an Acuna yet, but I looked at it and went, because Acuna's deal was several years ago. I kind of looked at it and went, that was kind of what I figured he would, like, the neighborhood he would end up in. Acuna got 8 years and $100 million. So I can't, like, that's kind of what I looked at as a benchmark. Like, you maybe you have to be in that, $80-ish million range, $10 million a season, so 60 million a year is fantastic. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, I get it's only 10 games into the season, but he's hitting 364 for a guy who's 22, who really, aside from he's had one bad, it's not even really a bad game. He looked overmatched in his major league debut, which is most 90% of baseball players making their major league debut.
What did Maz say about that?
He said he looked overmatched, wasn't ready.
He said he doesn't look ready for Major League Baseball. I understand it was his Major League debut, but he doesn't look game ready. And then, of course, he's been tearing the cover off the ball ever since. So, I, for one, love it. I think by June, you're going to be looking back and going, that is arguably one of the most team-friendly deals you could have possibly come up with. I mean, obviously, baseball is so volatile. It's such a long season. A year from now, we could be like, well, yeah, $60 million, probably a fair price for a guy who's 23 based on how he performed his rookie year. But, the ceiling with this guy is well worth more than $60 million over the next 8 years.
Yeah. By June, he might have a new agent.
I was thinking
by Friday, he'll have a new agent.
yeah, he might have a new agent. One thing that shocked me, and it was the most random, like, it was an out. The ball he hit, I think it was yesterday, he kind of they got him jammed a little bit, and he hit a low, like what seemed like a soft line drive to center field. And it went right to the center field. I think like Story was on second. It was just like a routine, like, line out to the center fielder. And I'm like, oh yeah, he got jammed like a soft line drive. The ball got off the bat at 103 miles an hour. And I saw that. I'm like, this dude's bat speed. Like, he has such an unorthodox swing that just not something you would really, if you're a hitting coach, you look at it and say, like, I like that. It's not the prettiest swing, but he has this odd ability to get his bat through the zone at such a flat level, and it comes in fast. Like I said, off the bat, I was like, oh, that maybe was like 75, 80 miles an hour off the bat. No, it comes in at 103. I'm like, this dude's he's got some like sneaky raw power. And we've obviously talked about his, he's 6'3" for a second baseman, but he's not overly big muscular wise, but he has this ability to really tear the cover off the ball.
It's kind of like old school, like we're going way back. Sorry, I am 46, but like Ichiro, very thin, but sneaky power. Like he's underneath that uniform. Dude's built like Captain America, but he looks like he's really skinny, but he had a lot of power. Similar type of body style. I would say skill. If he's as good as Ichiro, this is the greatest steal in sports history. But I mean, but I mean, he's firing that agent tonight. But when I'm talking about his power, his makeup and his size, it's an in frame but yet very strong player.
Yeah. So Matt, you were talking about bat speed. This is relative to his first home run, but his bat speed averages out to be about low to mid 70s, which is in like the high 80th percentile. So, I mean, he's 22. And Matt, we talked about this, Zach, you too. We talked about this. Like, if you look at Kristen Campbell, Kristen Campbell is 6'3", 210. If you look at Kristen Campbell play baseball, you're like, that guy doesn't weigh 210. He looks like he weighs 175. You'd never look at him and be like, that guy's $2 bills. No. But I mean, for a guy, I mean, again, a little bit of an unorthodox swing. To generate bat speed at 75 miles an hour is better than 90% of major league hitters, and the guy's 22. That's nuts.
He's still not even at that level, like maturity wise, for a grown man's body. You really don't hit that until you're like 24, 25 years old, where you kind of maybe hit that peak of like filling out. So like if he can, he can even put on a little bit more muscle and weight and bat speed. Like on top of it, seems to have a pretty good eye. He seems to have, a pretty good discipline overall. And so like if he can mature and obviously steadily improve even more than he already did. I mean, like 18 months ago, the dude was in like high A. So he's still got plenty of room to improve. And that's kind of, I think, the scary thing. I thought at the beginning of the season, it was a little premature to have him start the season here. But I mean, I feel like I was wrong. I mean, clearly Cora and the Red Sox, like they were seeing it, even if the results, because he didn't hit very well in spring training.
No.
But clearly they were seeing it beyond the games of saying like, all right, like this kid's ready to go.
Yeah. So you mentioned an eye. So in 8 games, Kristen Campbell has 8 walks and 8 strikeouts in the 10 games so far this year, which is tied for second most in walks. Devers is the only player with more walks with 9. And Rafaela and Abreu are the only guys with fewer strikeouts than him. Just to add to your point about the Cora and them saw something in Campbell that maybe we didn't see. Again, like not to use the Dustin Pedroia example. In 2007, they rode the bumps and bruises with him. He hit in the bottom of the lineup and tried to figure it out. And come October, not to say I'm foreshadowing, but he was leading off in the World Series in 2007 after.
It's your right to foreshadow. I'll accept this one.
I mean, considering, and he had a rough April when he was a rookie, and then to be your leadoff hitter in the World Series and leading them to a sweep in 2007. Not saying it's the same. I think, they have different games, but this has the makings of like Dustin Pedroia 2.0 from 18 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's
off to a better start for sure. So,
yes,
I'm incredibly impressed by the guy, to say a whole. But all right, I do want to transition into a little bit of Patriots football. I know, Ben and Zach, we talked basically every single scenario last week around the number 4 pick and all the possible options. But Cerrone, I want to get your thoughts on it. How are you feeling with this number 4 pick? And if you have to stick and pick, who are you hoping for? And if are you preferring to trade out as a whole? How you feeling here?
Well, I think the first part is I'm not buying nothing the Titans, Browns, and Giants are saying right now. I don't believe a thing. I mean, I'm looking at the Browns and the Giants as coaching staffs and front offices that are all on the hot seat, and it's only April. And I'm wondering if they really have the nerve to pass up on a quarterback. And are the Giants really going to go into the season with, Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson? Are you really going to do that, knowing that you're all probably going to be fired by Halloween? But if that's the case, if the two quarterbacks come off the board and it's Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, I think at this point, you haven't seen any trades so far with these teams. Unless you get a huge haul for that pick, you stay there and you take the best one available. Which one is left out of the two? And don't make it too complicated. Now, I think I'm kind of torn because I think the smart move is to get the left tackle because there's none left to get. And if you want to get the best one that's available right now, it might still be, Campbell, but it's a tough spot. But I think the teams in front of them are going to dictate this whole thing. If I got to stay, I'm taking Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, whatever two is available, because I do believe those quarterbacks are off the board. Now, if let's say the scenario goes where the quarterbacks are still there, Sanders is there, he's going to the Saints, like you heard a lot of stories today, and Travis Hunter's already gone, and Abdul Carter, Carter and Hunter are both gone, you might have to stick it out and go with Will Campbell. Unless somebody comes with you with that haul and says, hey, just to move up a couple slots, we're going to give you obviously the first, we're giving you a second this year and giving you something sweet next year to go along with it. Then you back out and you still have, other left tackle options. You can go after the tight end. I think they have to improve this running back room one way or the other. Matt, you put out a mock draft last week. I should have took a screenshot of it. I think it was the best one.
I put out a ton of them. So.
I know it was a ton of them, but it was one you put out. I said, "Oh, that's it. Stop right there. That's the one." But I think so much of it is going to be dictated by the other teams in front of them. But if I have to stay, I think the best player out of this whole thing is Travis Hunter. I think he's the best player, best football player in the country. And this kid, not only if I'm the owner, if I'm Kraft, I'm looking at Hunter not only as a guy that's going to prove my team on the field, this guy's going to make me a ton of coin off the field. I think he's going to be a superstar that gets you on national TV. He's going to sell merchandise. He's going to make you one of the hottest teams. Now, is the winning going to come automatically? I don't know. It's yet to be determined, but I think Hunter makes you a even sexier franchise and gives you a lot more than a Will Campbell, Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter added to this defense, I think makes you game records every week, especially with the schedule they got coming up. But I think Travis Hunter off the field makes you probably one of the more attractive teams around the league. And I think that's a selling point when it comes to free agency next year, national TV, money, getting your reputation back. We saw Parcells go into the Patriot Hall of Fame because of the culture change. I think you can see a chance where this player coming in could be a culture change for this Patriot team.
Yeah. I just pulled it up. I searched my username on your account, and it's the they slide back to the Panthers. They take Tyler Warren at 8, and then they move up for Kelvin Banks.
Yeah.
It's funny. So one of my favorite pastimes currently is I like to tell Matt about how he doesn't know how to do a mock draft. I just like to troll him a little bit.
No. I said to Ben, and we just grade each other's mocks, and he refuses, no matter what, to give me an A.
I did give you one. Go find it. Go find it. I did give you an A.
Oh, I don't know, man. That's a lot.
But it would be. It's in the chat. It's in the text thread. And so, I'm one of those. There's a little bit of like unrealistic when it comes to like my mocks. Like my ideal scenario is trading back for assets because you have to build this team, right? So you have it's like I want them to maximize their assets to bring in as much talent as possible. So I think like, in a perfect scenario, at least for me, I waver back and forth. I still think that Ward is the only quarterback that goes in the top 3. It's just my gut. My gut tells me that, the Giants signed 2 veteran free agent quarterbacks, and if what's the GM's name? Sean, whatever. I don't know what his name is. He may not be relevant, like you said, Cerrone. He might be gone by Halloween. Him and Dayball are supposedly at odds, but if they can get on the same page and go, if they can go to the owner and say, give us a year, like them signing 2 veteran quarterbacks tells me they're punting, or they're willing to punt and draft Arch Manning in 2026. And that's the franchise guy, and you can pair him with Travis Hunter at 3, and then who knows what they want to do the rest of the draft, right? So like my gut tells me that they just go best available, and that they're just not in love with Shador enough that it's worth the risk of, well, if we don't get Shador and he's a stud somewhere, our jobs are on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So ideal for me is, slide back a few spots, stay in the top 10, take your tackle, and then with those assets, move up from 38 and go get either Matthew Golden, Luther Burden, or Emeka Egbuka in the 20s, because now you've gotten a top left tackle prospect. Whether you think it's Will Campbell, Matt's brought up the idea of like he thinks that Membu is athletic enough that he could move from right tackle to left tackle. Felger and Maz talked today about, draft Membu, put him at right tackle. You move Moses.
I found it, Ben.
You move Moses from right tackle to left tackle. So there's so many scenarios, right? But like, if they can somehow do that, and then they get, I'm a big Emeka Egbuka fan. I think that the skill set and the build is just too good to pass up. But if you can go get one of those guys, like that, to me is like a perfect ideal scenario. I realize that, we can do as many mock drafts on PFF that allows you to do this stuff. It's not real life. I think at least Matt and I, and Zach definitely agrees with this, but I know Matt and I talk all the time about how, because there's no elite prospect in this draft, not named Travis Hunter, that if anybody's trading back from the top 5, top 6 picks, you're probably going to have to take a traditionally below market value offer, because there is no stud that somebody else is going to come up for from 8, 9, 10, or 11 that maybe you don't get an offer with a first rounder and 2 second-round picks, which is why I don't necessarily think they trade back, because I don't think they're going to look at it and go, well, is it really worth moving back 2 spots just to get a 3rd-round pick this year? Like, I don't know if they're going to do that. But that's my ideal. I don't really think it's going to happen, but that's my, I want my cake and eat it too.
No, but I still think they don't have to trade back. We talked about this a couple podcasts ago. Like
we did,
but I hear you on the Giants kind of sticking with Travis Hunter, and he's the best available player just in general in terms of the full package, right? The marketability. Cerrone mentioned the money you can get off the field. Obviously, he plays 2 premium positions in corner and or wide receiver. Excels at both of them, but the Giants are stupid. They're still searching for that.
Yeah,
they're still searching for that, star player. Obviously, Travis Hunter gets you that, but they still need a quarterback. As Cerrone mentioned that. They still are reeling from letting Saquon Barkley go to their rival Eagles and go win a Super Bowl there. And he's Deion's kid. He is built for New York City. The Giants are just stupid enough to go reach for someone like him. And yes, he's good. He's a great player. He's going to do, well in the league. But I still don't buy the fact that like they're not going to make some move that everyone's scratching their heads for, which will leave us with Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. Now I kind of agree with you, Cerrone. If for whatever reason the Giants make a smart move and take the best player available, that's either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, sticking with left tackle is, I think, the smartest move. And I think it's what's going to happen. I think I talked about this last podcast with, like, he's just such a Vrabel guy in terms of, who he is as a player, as a person, the big mauler, like brawler energy that he brings. And maybe it's me, but I feel like there's more depth. There's greater depth at the wide receiver position in rounds, the later later round 1, 2, and 3 than there is at the tackle, especially left tackle. And if at 4, everyone talks about, Membu. At 4, if you're already having conversations about can he play left tackle, can we just move him from right to left? Like, I'm sticking at 4. I want to know damn sure he can play left tackle. He can play whatever position he's comfortable in, and I don't want to have to teach him how to play a different position or like play a hope game with 4. So
it's funny you bring
conversation. For me, that conversation is the same thing with Campbell, though. It's like, so I really like Campbell, but if you're worried that he can't play, if you have any type of reservations that he might not be able to be a tackle, how do you justify that at number 4?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like that's my worry with him right now. It's like
I understand that too. I just, from what we've heard from Vrabel, he doesn't have any reservations about it. He said that it's SEC, the guys he's playing against, Abdul Carter and others, like he's playing against guys who get drafted, guys who go on to be all pros and Pro Bowl. So he's been hyping up Will Campbell for weeks now, and it feels like he like I get it if you're having questions of is he a guard, is he a tackle, is he left tackle for that matter. Doesn't sound like Vrabel has those questions. So
for the same reason that we don't really believe, like Cerrone doesn't believe what all these teams in front of us are saying. Like I have to take anything a coach says with a little bit of a grain of salt, for all, because he's not gonna come out and say like, nah, he's a guard, like we don't like him, you know what I mean? So he's gonna talk positively, basically about every player that he gets asked about, and that's scenario. So I do think that they like him, but you're not the only one because there's definitely been others. I just I'm not reading too much into those comments around Campbell. Wolf made the comment that I think is actually noteworthy that they went need more last year, which, you guys know I am an all best available player type of guy. Me and Ben get into screaming matches over that sometimes. But, I really like Will Campbell, but there are multiple players on the board, even after Hunter and Cotter, that I look at and say, I am more confident that they are going to be a stud of a player, even at the position that they play. And for me, that's 2 guys, and it's 1, Jelon Walker from Georgia, and 2, it's Tyler Warren from Penn State.
Yeah, now, I think Tyler Warren's going to be a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, do I like the idea of taking a tight end at 4? Like, is that a sexy pick? No. But I look at a guy like Ty Warren, and I say this guy can line up all over the field. He can go up and get the ball. You can put him at running back. The dude came out of the backfield at Penn State numerous times last season. He is a Swiss Army knife at the tight end position. He's a phenomenal blocker. He can really kind of do it all. And so I look at that and I say, if Tyler Warren ends up being a top 5 tight end for the next decade, is a single person going to look at that pick and say, yeah, but it was a tight end? The answer is no. And if you are, you're just being a jackass that wants to complain, which is exactly what depending on the day, it's really depending on the side of the bed that Ben wakes up on. I can tell. I literally text him. He'll I can just sense the mood. I'm like, dude, you're in a mood right now. Because he'll just battle everything I say. It doesn't matter what it is. He just has to rebuttal it. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, just stop bitching.
Like an old married couple.
What slot did the kid from the Raiders go last year, the tight end?
8, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
8 or 10.
You talking about Michael Mayer?
Brock Bowers.
Brock
Bowers.
Bowers. That's a good point. That's a good point, Cerrone. That's early for a tight end, obviously. But if you could redraft,
he's probably 4th.
He would probably be.
He was the 13th overall. He was the 13th overall pick last year.
Yeah, so
to play devil's advocate, though,
probably the 4th pick. You know what I mean? Maybe after the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Who went 4 here?
Who went
4 this year?
Marvin Harrison Jr.
was the number 4 pick last year. Yes.
Yeah. If you look back at these scenarios, he is without a question a top 6 pick. The Raiders are thrilled that they have him right now. The dude's a damn stud.
Yeah. Zach, what were you going to say about Devil's Advocate?
I was saying, to play devil's advocate, Kyle Pitts was number 4, and now they're
literally
still
what I was
reeling
gonna
about
say.
that pick, and you could have had 1,000.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah, we can all.
the thing with that is that's just a bad of like. It's not that he was a tight end. It's just that he missed on the pick. Like if Kyle Pitts was a stud, like again, no one would be saying
Kyle Pitts was the most pro-ready tight end we'd seen in
correct.
years more than everyone.
I also think
the
Atlanta
fact that he's not good is beyond me.
I also think Atlanta wildly misused him. Like they had a defensive first coaching staff who didn't understand. I mean, Kyle Pitts was 6'4", 6'5", 250-pound, like hybrid. Like in terms of skill set, on the field
That's
only.
why I'm confused.
Emphasize
he's not good.
on the field only. He reminded me a lot of Aaron Hernandez. Again, on the field only. So, but like, and they just didn't know how to use
hope it's not off.
That guy really reminds me of Aaron Hernandez in the locker room. No, but to Zach's point, like you look at guys that go in the top 5. I mean, granted, the Eagles are kind of reaping the rewards later, but like if you look back, like, do you really think that Saquon was worth a number 2 overall pick in the draft? Like, probably not. But I mean, to your point, Brock Bowers is, if you look back, you can go, because did he set the receiving record? It was rookie receptions record, correct? Yeah. And I mean, which is pretty good considering I think any one of us could play quarterback for Vegas. I don't think anybody they don't have anybody under center there. So that's a testament to Brock Bowers.
O'Connell and Gardner Minshew and
I do love me some Gardner Minshew, but it's, you look back and go, I mean, again, this is a pretty easy thing to say. You look back and go, you can say that about a ton of guys about whether they were drafted too early or you got a steal of a guy in the middle of the first round. I bet you if you asked the 49ers, they would redo that all over again and not trade up to number 3 for Trey Lance.
Yeah. Well, no shit. No, I'm just being a jackass, but
I know.
My point is, like, position-wise, with the exception of maybe running back, just because of the length of their careers aren't very long. Like, the positions don't matter that much. Like, if you get an elite player, that's really all that matters. So, like, it goes back to the conversation that I was kind of on in terms of, like, versus the Patriots' need. And, do you overextend for a left tackle because it's a need, it's the biggest need, or do you go best available? And then, so that's the question of, okay, like if we draft a Tyler Warren or we draft a Jalon Walker, are those the biggest needs? No. Could we use an edge rusher? Yeah, and Jalon Walker could be an edge rusher. But if either of those guys end up being a Pro Bowl, perennial Pro Bowl player, they're going to help the team win, plain and simple. B, no one's going to give a shit.
Right.
And the team, like, you know what I mean? And so I certainly understand the need for tackle. And if you don't go it in early in round 1, like I'm all for trading back up for like a Kelvin Banks. I like Josh Connery out of Oregon. And then even double dipping, like in the, middle rounds. I love like Chase Lunt from UConn. Yeah, UConn. I like the idea of is it Cameron Williams, the Texas guy?
Yes.
Yeah, the right tackle. Like, I'm all for double dipping. Get as many bodies in there as possible. And like, do I want to go into the season with Vidarian Lowe? No. Like, absolutely not.
No.
But like in the end, it's already difficult enough to draft in this league. Mm-hmm. Take the player that you are most confident in to be an elite player at number 4.
Yes.
That's really all it is for me.
And with this team, they have so many holes. I don't think there's a wrong pick except for quarterback. They need everything, man. They need a kicker. They need everything. So I don't think
with the 4th pick, they take the Miami kicker.
I think that no matter who they pick, fans are going to be. There's going to be a third of the fans that are upset, a third that love it, and another third that's like, it doesn't matter. You're not going to please everybody with this, but they have so many needs, like you said, getting as many picks as you can because they have to fill holes. But I just think that this team, I don't think there's a wrong decision, but I love your idea of Calvin Banks. I thought Calvin Banks, I don't understand why his stock fell. He didn't do anything that could make it worse once the season ended. I mean, the kid was dominant, same as Campbell, SEC player. We saw him play through the college football playoff, and no one did anything to him. And I think he allowed like 2 sacks or something like that all season. Dominant left tackle, no questions about his arm length. And I think Patriot fans will be happy if you can get him later in the draft if you can move back. But there's something that Zach said earlier. It kind of had me chuckling. He said the Giants. See, the Giants are stupid. We all know that.
Yes.
Did you say
the showing might be stupid?
Then you said that they're still reeling after the Saquon Barkley move, and it just came to me. I said, "Watch these guys draft Genty after all this to replace Saquon to kind of please everybody. Like you went and got the best
running back
to replace
my buddy.
I can see it totally.
Giants fan. My buddy's a Giants fan. I promise you, if they take Genty, I might have to go be with him because he might be trying to hurt himself.
I hadn't even thought of that, Cerrone. That's a hilarious take.
And just replace Saquon.
I need it to happen now for sure.
Yeah, we got Malik Neighbors. Yeah. We got Russell Wilson. All we need now is a running back to replace Saquon. Let's get the best running back in the country, and they take.
And if we suck, we can take Arch Manning next year, and now we have Manning. I could totally. That might be the greatest.
I wish you never said that. Now it's all I'm rooting for.
It's all I'm gonna think about. Yeah, it's like it's funny. I was talking to Matt about like kind of out of left field picks, and it's kind of like how because he brought up the idea of possibly like Shedeur Sanders going to the Saints because there's that chatter now, and then. And then we got to talk about certain things, and I was like, well, nobody really thought that Michael Penix was going to go number 8 to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Or no, you said Matt, you said Jackson,
or Nick was going to go to Denver.
Yeah, I think this was over. You talking about maybe Jackson Dart being a top 15 pick, and so it would just be like it would be totally on par with the Giants to just completely blindside the entire league and take Ashton Jeanty number 3 overall, and everyone go. Well, nothing. Like, I can just see Mel Kiper being like, "Well, didn't see that coming." Kind of like
it changes the whole night. It throws the whole night off if they do that, and I think that'd be great TV.
Yeah,
especially if
I'm for it. I support that decision.
Yeah, because it helps the Patriots out if they do something like that.
It does. And on top of that,
you sit there with Genty, or I'm sorry, Carter and Hunter. After all this talk of which one are we going to have and which one do we want to, like Slim Pickens.
Yeah, and now you're like, oh shit! Now we got both of them on the board because
I wasn't ready for this. Shit,
the Browns went Shedeur, and the Giants went Jeanty. Holy cow!
Right, you got 15 minutes to decide if you want Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter.
They'll make that pick at 14 minutes 59 seconds, and then on top of that, I could just see Mark Davis with his stupid red haircut fuming in the draft room because he's sitting there hoping that Jeanty's sitting there for him at 6. Because that's where I think he goes. I think he goes 6 to Vegas. I can just see him sitting there fuming because the Giants came out of left field and took his pick way before anybody ever thought he would go.
I need it.
The thing so bad. Personally, I think it's either going to be Vegas or Chicago for him. Yes. Obviously, the Raiders GM made a comment and said that the GM's son said he was like, my son's going to be very upset with me if we don't take Genty at 6 because he's like, oh, he's the best player in the draft. Blah, blah, blah. Thing is, he might be like he's arguably him and Travis Hunter are the 2 best players in the draft. It's just how much do you value the running back position?
The running back, yeah.
Moving past the 4th pick, and obviously this will depend on really where they go in at number 4 or if they move back. So, do you have any 2nd, 3rd round, even later guys that you are really kind of in love with that you hope end up in New England?
Well, for me, I think it might be too early 2nd round for this, but I think they absolutely have to address the running back position. I'm glad to hear that they're considering, they're going to go back to typical Josh McDaniels. We need a 3rd down guy, a pass catching running back. Someone like the kid out of Syracuse is a name that's come up, or somebody like a Burnett. It's the kid from Tennessee, Dylan
Sampson.
Dylan Sampson. Just a speed guy that, okay, you want to throw those screen passes. Here's a guy you could throw a screen to, and he can take it 70 yards. I think they need that type of threat, or just a workhorse. I'm a big fan of Marion Hampton. I got to see him play a few times, But I know you're going to have to get him in the second round. After that, he's going to be gone. But I think the running back position might be the strongest out of all of them when it comes to depth, the amount of quality running backs. And I think you have to figure out a way to get one of those guys in. Not saying that Stevens, Ramondre Stevens is done, but I think you need some balance there. I think you need kind of a dual threat situation with them. And I look around the league. I look at Baltimore. I look at Detroit. I look at Buffalo last year that went to a running game and exploded. You saw Kansas City. Pat Mahomes had one of his, weaker seasons throwing the ball, but they had a little balance on the ground. I think the best teams run the football, not with just one guy, multiple guys. And I think the Patriots have to get back to running the football, taking pressure off Drake May, and being balanced. So I think if you're getting all this help on the offensive line, if it's Calvin Banks, whoever it is, and the guys you've brought in free agency, all right, give those guys a running back that they can look back and say, okay, we're going to dictate things now. We're going to be moving body. I think that's the type of team they have to be a real.
I'm a big DJ Giddens guy from K-State. Just as an overall running back, he's not necessarily that like small gadget third down guy, but just as an overall running back. I know Jaden Blue from Texas, he is that kind of smaller size guy. Dude, but speed. Yeah. He can fly. And I think he lined up in the slot like 15% of their snaps last year. And then I've heard a lot about this guy from MSU or SMU.
SMU is a wide receiver, running back.
Brashard Smith,
and so he obviously kind of fits that mold as well. I agree completely. Like that, they need even just for the future. Beyond this year, you don't know what that running backfield looks like. So if they can add, whether it's just a gadget guy or both, a guy that can do kind of both things, they absolutely need to add to the mix. Never mind just for the depth piece. Stevenson goes down. I'm not exactly thrilled with Gibson being like the only serviceable guy. No offense to Kevin Harris, but he's not, lighting it up for me. I'm not very happy with that.
I was going to say you need a guy that dictates the defense and have them, forcibly go 8 in the box. Now when you're Drake May, you're up there reading defense, okay, the play action is there. I got something. I got my Stephon Diggs out there now. I got other guys, whether it's Travis Hunter, whoever it is, or both of them. Okay, you go 8 in the box, now you're going to get cooked. Or I can run play action, heavy play action with those tight ends that you already have. I think a running back dictates coverage like that, and I think they have to get one.
Yeah, the second round back that I like, I have a sneaky suspicion. I don't know if Amari and Hampton gets out of the first round. I think he has a ceiling of a high first round pick. Like a sneaky guy that I think would thrive in this offense, that you could absolutely get at 38 is Cam Scatterbo.
That's my boy.
Love his
I was waiting for you to bring him up, Cerrone.
Love his game. He's a great size for a guy who how he plays. He's a great dual threat running back. He's a guy who can mix it up the middle, but he's also got the agility. He can bounce it outside. He can catch it out of the backfield. Like he to me is the true all around running back in this draft, who I think is a realistic second I think that 38 is probably a little high for him. But if you don't think you can come up from, say they stay at 4 and they don't add, another third round pick that they can move like up from the third round. I mean, you might have to come up from 69 if you don't take him at 38. He might be a guy that you need to move up into like the 40s or 50s, but he's a guy that I think would absolutely thrive in this offense with how he plays. He's a guy that plays with a chip on his shoulder, but I think just his build and his style.
Yeah.
He, like Josh McDaniels, would have a field day scheming plays in this offense for Cam Scatterbo.
Yes,
that's a Boston guy too.
Absolutely.
This market 100%.
He'd be a fan favorite from day one. He's a tough dude, and it's unlike Genty. I wouldn't say it's his fault. He wasn't surrounded by the greatest talent, but Cam lit it up all season. 24 touchdowns or something like that. Crazy numbers, all around numbers. And then it was like, what are you going to do in the playoff when you face a team like Texas? And then he went out and had his best game of the season against a team like Texas. And everybody knew he was getting the ball, and they could not stop this kid. And he almost single-handedly beat Texas, which would have been amazing. And I'm wondering why. I mean, I understand he doesn't have the fastest 40 times and all that stuff, but the dude is a football player. And the thing that stuck out to me the most is he never put the ball on the ground. And if you're a running back playing in the AFC East, in Foxborough, in New Jersey, in Buffalo, late in the year, you want a guy that's not going to fumble the ball. You want a guy that's going to fall forward, a guy that can catch the ball. He can get outside. He can make linebackers look silly. And then we also seen him throw a 40-yard touchdown against Texas. He just does a lot. And I think a guy like him, if Bill Belichick was still the head coach, I don't think it'd be any debate if he would be a Patriot or not.
I was just going to say, that's such a Bill guy, the keeping the hands on the ball, not putting it on the ground. Like, that's such a Bill stat.
He reminds me a bit of like a little bit bigger mix between like an Austin Eckler and a Kyron Williams, like a little bit bigger than both of them, but a guy that like can just kind of do a little bit of everything back there. He doesn't necessarily do anything phenomenally, but he does everything well. So like a round 3 for him, if he's sitting there at like 69. Something like that for the Patriots at the beginning of round 3. I don't know if he's getting there, but I really like that. The one thing I will watch with these running backs is like there's a lot of them. So, how many teams are truly running back needy? I think you could see whether it's, a Scatabo, a Judkins, Henderson, Caleb Johnson, I believe is the other one. Like all these guys are projected to go round 2. We have Hampton and Genty going probably round 1. Like, do we see 6 running backs going in the first 2 rounds?
That's a lot.
That's a lot. You know what I mean? So and that doesn't include like I said, a DJ Giddens, a Devin Neal from Kansas. Like these guys are all projected to go in like the top 80, and it's like, okay, are we having 8 running backs in the top 80 picks? And the answer to that is probably not.
Yeah, right.
So I think there's a chance that, especially the second round guys with the Caleb Johnson, the Judkins, the Henderson, and the Scatabo, one of them is bound to, I think, fall into the late 60s, early 70s. Yeah. So it's just a matter of, if Vrabel's a guy that really values toughness, character, like a guy like Scatabo, but will other teams value that over maybe the size and speed and stuff like that you see in maybe a Judkins or Henderson or something like that? So I do think there's an outside chance.
Yeah, I hope not. I was gonna say the 2 stats on Cam from last year that really stand out to me. So Cam ran for 1,712 yards. 1,202 of them came after contact. So he is a guy that relishes contact, and which was 3rd in the country last year. The other stat, he forced 103 missed tackles in 14 games, which was 2nd in the country. So you're talking about a guy who will run you over.
Genty, I assume.
I mean, I'd have to compare. Let me see.
You don't have to pull it up.
So Genty 1,970 yards after contact and 152 forced missed tackles, which is just insane. But you look at a guy in Scatabo who will either run you over or make you miss if he doesn't think he can run you over. Mm-hmm. And for a guy like
you guys are selling me on him.
I love that guy. Like if you watch how he plays, like not to say that he doesn't know he's good, but like you look at Jaunty, I don't know how to say his name. Like he's a guy that's just like, I know I'm good, I'm gonna own you. Scatabo is a guy who was not really talked about during the season as like a true top of the draft running back talent. The guys that were coming out, the Quinshaw Judkins, who if he had come out last year, probably would have been one of, if not the top running back off the board last year. there's other guys around the league that got mentioned before Scatabo, and he's a guy who he plays with a chip on his shoulder because no one talks about him. But then you look at his numbers and you go, why is nobody talking about Cam Scatabo?
He should have been in the Heisman, sitting there invited to the Heisman. Not saying he should have won it, but he should have got an invite. And I think that's something he said at the time. Like, how does a guy have these kind of numbers and not,
Yeah.
First of all, he won the conference, made the playoff, and it was like, but. And then he lit up Texas, and it's like, no, this kid should have got the recognition. If he was at Michigan or Penn State or one of these major programs, I don't think there'd be any debate at all if he's going in the first 2 rounds. But I think playing at Arizona State is kind of holding him back. And it's like, but imagine what he'd do with an offensive line. Like, what would he have looked like if he didn't have to make that many people miss?
Right.
And how dominant could he have been? Same with Genty, I guess you could say too.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think we'll have a good chance of one of those 4 guys falling into the 60s, 70s. Maybe it's Scatabo. I never get to mock him because I'm not going him at 38. But like he's never there. Excuse me, in the 60s, at least on PFF. So I mean, I'm excited. He's a ball player. Like is the best way to put it. And that's a guy I think that we look at and say like Vrabel probably loves the idea of him coming here. And I'm sure McDaniels does too. Like that toughness coming into the offense and that hard nose, like I'm going to go through you type of mentality is really the complete opposite of Ramondre Stevenson. He's more of like a finesse. I love Stevenson. I love how Stevenson falls. He literally just falls backwards, but forwards, like after every play. He's good at getting that extra couple of yards, but the dude is so like overly patient. He tiptoes everywhere he runs, and it's just like this slow, steady stream. And when you got a garbage O line like the Pats had,
makes it worse.
It doesn't help them. But all right, that's gonna wrap us up for this week. We obviously got into a lot. We're, as usual, a little bit over what I wanted to do, but we do finish this up with State Your Take. Basically, Cerrone, it's any take, it doesn't even have to be sports related, just any take you have that you want to throw out there that you're strong and feeling strong about. Let's say it. I'll start with you, Ben. I'll give Cerrone a second to think of his.
All right. State your take. I'm going to do a little bit of forecasting. I know we don't talk a ton of Celtics on here, but I'm going to say that the Boston Celtics will return to the NBA Finals. I think they are a team built for a postseason run. Yes, Cleveland has been very, very good, but I just think that, as weird as it is to say that a team that's 58-20 or whatever the record is getting hot at the right time. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but they look, as good as they did last year, and they're starting to hit that stride a little bit. So they're my pick to win the Eastern Conference. Nobody in that conference, I don't want to say scares me. Cleveland's obviously very, very good. Nobody other than the Cavaliers, I think, should put up a fight against this team. But I think they're NBA Finals bound again, and hopefully we can queue up the duck boats in June.
All right, Zach, let's hear yours.
I got one. You're gonna hate this one, Matt, but it came.
Oh boy,
it came from one of the Twitter beefs you were on today. I don't know if it was Junkie or someone else, but
he's the worst.
Dude,
I don't think it was him because it was football. It wasn't football related. But I don't know how you feel about this one, Ben. I know. I was watching all of them and I was laughing. But it is that Chaim Bloom gets far too much credit for where the Red Sox are now. And as a general manager,
from this podcast,
I told
right
you,
now.
you can mute me, you can do whatever, but he gets far
this is
too
a Chaim
much credit.
Bloom loving podcast. There is no time for this nonsense.
I joined the podcast late.
That is not.
I joined the podcast late. He, for as much as he's done to rebuild the farm system, that's all he really did. Like, you can say that he didn't have a budget. You can say that John Henry wouldn't let him spend. He still spent $250 million on Yoshida and Trevor Story. Neither one of them have really worked out. I know Story's been injured, but great guy. Little bit of a deer in the headlights for trades. I know he got Wilyer Abreu. There was plenty of fan favorites that he didn't trade that would have absolutely catapulted this team into more, a faster rebuild, if you will. JD Martinez and Chris Sale come to mind. And he wouldn't re-sign players that obviously had, an impact on this team. Michael Wacha comes to mind. And spending money on Garrett Richards when he could have gone other places as well. He gets far too much credit for the major league roster. For as good as he was in rebuilding the farm system, and a lot of those players on this team are his guys, he was equally as bad at managing a major league roster. And I know I'm right because he didn't get a GM job immediately after. He had to go be an assistant to a GM to learn the trick of the trade a bit more before finally getting the job in St. Louis this year. So hot take.
He walked so that Breslow could run. That's kind of
sure.
That's kind of the best way to put it.
Yeah, this is my last take your take ever. Happy I went out.
Yeah,
happy I went out.
You went out on top.
There's gonna be a press release from Raise the Bandit tomorrow. That's Zach Brooks.
I'm never coming back again.
No, I'll go for me, and it's Red Sox related, and it's that the greatest move that Heimblum made in Wilyer Abreu. Speaking of that, he will be an MLB All-Star this year.
I like that.
I think that he's red hot right now, and I think that he's going to end up. He's not going to continue at this level. Obviously, if he does, he's on a damn beyond MVP level. But I think that he's going to come out and he's going to be the guy that's going to be able to bat in the 280s, hit a ton of doubles, play a Gold Glove right field, and all around, he'll be in that conversation. And if he doesn't make the All-Star game, he'll be one of those guys that we're going to look at and ask if he's, did he get cheated out of an All-Star game appearance? So that's what I'll go with. Cerrone, let's finish it up with you. I had
two on my mind, but when he's talking about the Celtics, talking about basketball, it's one that I know I'm out on an island on this one. I'm gonna have a major shock in the Western Conference of the NBA playoffs. I'm gonna pick the LA Clippers to win the Western Conference.
Ooh.
They're 18-3 or something like that in the last 21 games. And you got Harden and Kawhi out there giving out 30 burgers like it's 5 years ago. And they're quietly just beating everybody they're playing right now, playing good defense. And they have a veteran team. They have a center. They have the wings. They have all the pieces. And I think we're getting all the attentions going to Golden State and LA because of the names more than anything. And no one's paying attention to the Clippers just rolling everybody. And I don't trust the youth of Houston and OKC. But I think veteran older teams are usually the teams that win the most in this league, and they're probably the more veteran team with talent in the Western Conference right now. And that's if Kawhi Leonard's legs stay attached to his body. But if they're healthy, I got the Clippers winning the Western Conference. The other one was
it's definitely just about health, obviously, with them. If Kawhi stays healthy and Harden stays healthy, that team can compete with anybody in the West. Yeah. That West is just freaking loaded.
Yeah, it's going to be
you got 5-6 teams that I think you could realistically have an argument for coming out of the West. I mean, even Denver is going to be the 7th seed. That's just kind of nuts to me. I like that though. The Clippers. I hope. I've always been outside of Boston, for the Celtics. I've always kind of been a Clippers are my number 2 kind of fan base. For football, it's San Francisco, the 49ers. I have no idea why. I can't explain it. But
I think
Clippers are only two games out in the division. Clippers are only 2 games out behind the Lakers.
Yeah. So the Lakers have a tough schedule to close out the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that the 3 through 6 spots in that division are completely up for grabs. And from what I see, I think that 3 spot is going to be huge.
Yeah.
You don't want to be one of those teams that are stuck in the middle because you're facing a really, really good Really, really good team, obviously.
Yeah.
So if you can get that 7 or maybe 2 spot, you'll be in a much better spot to at least go through round 1. But
yeah, I got them. I got them closing it out in the West.
I love that. That's a state you take. So I appreciate that's a good one. It's a bold one, and I'll be sure to put that out there, especially if they run the table. But all right, that's gonna do it for this week. Cerrone, I appreciate you coming on. You got any final words for the listeners?
No, man, thanks for having me on here. I really appreciate it. And, thanks for you guys listening when I'm on, on 98.5. And I just appreciate the love that, getting from a lot of you guys. And I'm enjoying it. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here.
Of course. All right, boys. We'll be back sometime next week. What do we hope for from this time next week? It used to be Bregman signing. That was
like
7 straight weeks
extension. Then it was Diggs, maybe, or a wide receiver.
Felt like 6 months.
All right, maybe the Red Sox will be on.
They're going to take Genty.
11. Oh God, no! Don't do that to me. All right, that's where we're ending it.
What I want now.
We'll raise the banner until next week. Goodbye.
Have a good night.
See you guys.